Hello, Brother Nashi, how are you? There was a gospel singer that I used to date. I never knew that even people that you see on TV singing about the Holy Spirit, and when you see a gospel musician singing, you think that the inspiration it is coming from the Holy Spirit. But some of them they are heavily involved in dark occultic kingdom. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it was sent to us by one of our admin who helped us with a translation. The voice note that was sent to us, it reads like this. Please, brother, I am asking you with everything that I have, can you hide my face? Hide my name, even hide the name of the province where I am currently staying right now. If I make a mistake in telling you that I am staying in such and such a province, I want to tell you about the man that I used to work for, who was a gospel musician. It was back in the early 2000s. I was just a young guy who had came from KZN. I had just finished my university degree, and like any other young man from the location, I thought that the only way, if I could come to Johannesburg, I could quickly get a job than staying in the province where I grew up staying. So in KZN, I got the chance to learn from the best because I went to a Pentecostal church and they encouraged almost everyone to at least learn one musical instrument. And I fell in love with the piano first. Then after that, I fell in love with the drums. That is how I became a drummer. I was someone that was even being hired by other churches and other small bands that wanted a drummer. And growing up in church, it made me to have that opportunity to learn musical instruments just for free. And one thing that I loved was gospel music. I can say that the love of music, it came from my mother because my mother herself, she was someone that wanted to become a gospel musician, but it did not happen. So having to learn gospel music, I thought that when you are someone that goes to church, when you start to sing gospel music, it is one of the cleanest and the safest industry to be in because you are performing for Christians, right? And you are performing as well in front of people that are worshiping the same God that you are worshiping, not going to some club where you are singing for people that do not go to church. But I was wrong. The whole music industry, it is just the same. It is controlled by occult people. Does not even matter, even if it is gospel music or not. So I got a big break when I moved to Josim. I was working. I had a job that I had gotten, and I landed a gig with the major production company that I can't mention by name, but it was handling backup bands for the biggest names in the country. If you were a musician or someone that played a guitar or any kind of instrument, if you signed up with them, you could quickly get a gig than trying to market yourself to big bands. So that was the day when I met this guy. I'll just call him the singer because I'm scared that, these days it is very difficult. And when you are dealing with occulted people, you do not know what they will end up doing to you. So this singer, he was a musical giant. If you turned on the radio, he was there. If you opened a newspaper, yes, these were the days when newspapers were still in style before your social media. He was always there. He was someone that had won awards, a man who had sold a lot of records, and people, they loved to listen to his gospel songs. So when I first met this guy, when we first stood on the same stage as him during rehearsals, I was even shaking. I never thought that I would end up playing alongside such a great man of God because my mother loved the music that this man was doing, and everyone said that when they listened to his music, it brought them closer and closer to God. So this man told me that he liked me and I was just nervous. He had seen it, but he wanted me to focus. He said, stay focused. And I said to him, yes, say, I'm just a bit nervous. He then asked me and he said, where are you from? I'm from KZN, Baba. I replied, because I was even still nervous. I could not look at him directly in his eyes. KZN. Oh, he told me that he had some good friends down in KZN. And then that was when he gave me the first money that he gave to me. There were two 100 notes. And he said, go buy yourself some lunch because you played well today. So he gave me a money. There was no one that had ever given me so much money just as a session drama. I thought that he was generous because he was considered to be a Christian leader in gospel music. I started to tell everyone about him back home. I am working with this celeb and he's very great. So the rehearsals, they started changing. He started to call me for private sessions. He would say that he wanted to work on the timing of the new songs, just me and him. We would spend hours in the studio because he had a private studio at his home. So we were not always playing music. He started talking to me about my life, asking me if I was lonely here in Joburg, since I had told him that I did not have a lot of relatives in Joburg. He started to tell me, strange enough, that I was cute and how I was so handsome and I was very talented. It was really weird. Back then, I'll say that I was only 22 years old. I was confused and I was also starstruck. That is what happens when you are in contact with a celebrity. Some of the things that will be happening, you won't even understand until the deed is done. Besides, this man, when he was in private, he had this ring that had a green. Sometimes he had another ring that had a purple emerald on top of it. Whenever he would hold it, whilst he was talking to you, you will agree to whatever that he would tell you that he wanted you and him to do it. This man, he was a legend. When he started making moves on me, I did not know what came over me. I was never like that into men as a man. I don't know how I could not say no to him. It was as if I was possessed by another spirit. So I ended up agreeing. This guy, I agreed to do anything with him without any shame at all. I started to be in that kind of a lifestyle because of him, even though he was a married man and he stood in front of the church every Sunday, because at the branch where he was worshiping every Sunday, he would be leading the praise and worship. This guy, I can say that he literally groomed me. He started sleeping with me, but it did not happen once. He started buying for me expensive clothes, taking me to different restaurants where you could tell that, yo, this restaurant, it is very expensive. And he then gave me a cell phone. A cell phone to someone right now, it does not make sense that a person can just give you a cell phone because you can go and buy yourself a cheap smartphone. But back then, it used to be very hard for someone to buy a cell phone. Only the rich could afford a cell phone in the early 2000s. He said to me, you are very special and I am choosing you to stand by my side. But you must never tell anyone the secrets that are going to be happening between me and you, for the world will never understand that I have chosen you as another man. It is going to be our own secret. I was living in a dream and a nightmare at the same time. Before he had proposed to me, I still remember that he came to my dreams and he started to tell me that he loved me. And I fought with him and I said, I will never do such a thing with a man. But physically, when he just said that he wanted to date me, then I started dating him. He then bought a car. First, he gave me one of his luxury car that I was driving and I was nearly hijacked because it was very expensive, and he moved me from the location. And then he brought me to the suburbs, and he told me that he wanted me to stay in the suburbs. He took back his luxury car, then he bought for me another car. So this guy, he said to me that I should not look around, because there were things that I started to ask him, because I noticed that the other musicians in his band, when they were male, they never stayed long. People were always being replaced. I asked him once, why did this bass player suddenly leave? So this guy just said, no, do not worry about them. So it turned out that he had been lucky with me and he had been unlucky with other guys. So because I was very young and I was introduced to this lifestyle, we even went overseas once, just me and him. And when we went there, he was showering me with gifts. So like I was really confused. I never asked again. I kept on playing. I was his drummer and I was his boyfriend. And we started to share a lot of secrets. I honestly believed that this guy, he meant good when he told me that there was no other one, but he was dating a lot of guys in Joburg, and he was just lying to me. And in the fifth month of us dating, he was getting ready to record one of his new single, which became a hit in our country. I guess that in the world, people, they know about this song. So he told me that he was stressed and he wanted us to go to Limpopo, where we were going to get paid for, so that this single, when it was going to come playing on the radio, everyone would want more and more of that single. So we went out on this trip. He just said that it is just you and I, we are going to get paid for, and then we come back to Joburg. So we went to Limpopo. I did not think much about it, but I still remember that when we left Josim, it was on a Friday morning, and we were driving one of his BMW, an SUV that he had, and he had two master copies of his new CD, the unreleased tracks. And then when we arrived in Limpopo, that was when I saw that there was no prayer that was going to be said, because we arrived in this other village. I don't know the name of that village, but the place where we went, they were speaking in Pedi. I still remember very well. We stayed at that healer's house for the night, and the next morning, that was when we were taken into a consultation room. When we were inside of that consultation room, there was a chicken that was brought, and then the gospel musician, he was told to wash himself with the chicken blood that was mixed with water. After that, then the healer told us to go to the cattle kraal, but this was later in the evening of that day, and we went and we collected cow dung, not a lot, and we returned back to that traditional healer's consultation room. And then that was when the Sangoma took the cow dung and they started to spread it directly onto the surface of the CDs. I could not even understand what this man was doing, but it was just African magic that was happening. And then the man was given an instruction to take these dirty CDs back with him to Joburg, to go to each and every SABC radio station, those ones that were going to play first his songs. He was supposed to go there, not to show them the dirty disc, but we just had to keep this disc in the car and to drive to each and every major radio station. And he was supposed to give the clean ones to the DJ, and then they would load it into the library of that radio station. But the one that was dating, we would have left it in the car. So we did this, Brother Nashim. We did not rest when we returned back to Joburg after a couple of days when we had stayed with at that traditional healer's house. The day when we arrived, it was late at night. He called some of his old friends that were DJs from different radio stations, and then we started to go to different radio stations where we would give out these CDs so that the DJs can sample them. After we had done this, when the single finally dropped on this other radio station, it was like a wildfire. I had never seen a song blow out like that in my life. I can say that by the same morning, there were three big radio stations where people were calling and speaking with the DJ saying that they wanted to hear this song that they had on that first radio station, not wanting to mention it by name. So they were calling, everyone was calling the manager for the band because they wanted a sample of that single. This man, he was invited, I can say, to a different morning shows, every gospel program he was winning. And I used to play with him as his drummer. Then one night, I just said, I can't do this anymore. I started to think about all these Christians that would come to the shows. You will see them in the hall worshiping the Lord, but they did not know that this man that they loved so much that they believed that he was a true man of God, that he had been sent to sing for people. He was deep into occultism. And by then, because he used to give me his phone, I started to notice that he had a lot of SMSs that were coming from his other boyfriends, and I was just bored. One day, I was just sitting and I said, I cannot do this anymore. Let me just walk away. To my surprise, I thought that he was going to fight for me because he had told me that he loved me with all of his heart. But the day when I told him that I could not be with him anymore, he just said, oh, okay. And I told him that I had found some SMSs in his phone, and he said, okay, it's fine. I'm not in the mood to fight right now. That was it. We did not even fight. He then asked me where I was going to get money to pay for rent, since it was a month and it was fast approaching. And I said, are you not going to give it to me? And he said, no, since you have broken up with me, I cannot take care of you financially, but what I can do is that I can hook you up with another guy who is looking for a boyfriend. I was shocked. I was flabbergasted when he told me this. I said, it is fine. Let me move out of your apartment. And then he came when I told him that I had finished packing. I thought that he was going to cry over me. No, he did not do such a thing. He just checked to see if the apartment was okay. And he even hired someone else to bring a bakkie, and then they loaded my belongings and I returned back to the location to stay with one of my relatives. I used to drive a very beautiful car that he had bought for me, and then he said that he wanted his car back. As someone that had a lot of money, this car had been registered in my name, but fear just came over me, and I said, this guy, he can end up killing me. Let me just walk away in peace without ever fighting him, because you do not know why he is so calm like this and why he is demanding that I return back the car to him. So I returned it back, and I'm pretty sure that he gave it to his next boyfriend. So this is what happened when I was taken to Limpopo and joined occultism by someone that most of you to this very day, you consider that person to be a gospel singer. And I bet that some of you still listen to his music, even though you do not know that this guy, he was all about the devil. I am scared to tell you his name, because some of these people, they can just do anything to you. And the fact that he was someone that was into occultism, it makes it even more scary. But I just want people to know that occultism, it is also in the gospel music industry. So you just need to pray so that God can give you a revelation about your favorite musician. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to us by one of our dear brother, strange things indeed they do happen in this world. Let us talk about this in the comment section. Yo, can you believe it? Yeah, ne?